Today's accomplishment were yesterday's impossibilities, Mr. Robert H. says. Hello everyone. I'm pleased to welcome you all the 8th episode of Why Not series, a topic of innovation and how to create the better tomorrow. We have managed to reach across the almost 20,000 participants across the country in the last 2 months since starting this series. The feedback has been extraordinary and we are excited to keep bringing more uplifting content to you in the future. I promise you. Okay. Thomas J. Edison famously remarked, there's a way to do it better, find it. Innovation is all about asking, why not? Okay, so where others see what's being shown, innovators keep thinking about the possibilities in presence. In today's fast moving world, we need to understand that what has worked for yesterday might not apply for tomorrow. Okay, just consider the COVID situation. It has changed the status quo of how we live our lives and has had a profound impact on everyone. However, we have also been the advent of several technological advancements in this period, particular COVID period, last 4 months, such as autonomous vehicle, UAV, drones, 5G technology, cloud computing technology, e-commerce, and next generation telecommunication technology. Consider this, we, Access Global Automation and AGIIT, we developed the Servo robot, the next generation autonomous vehicle. So we are using COVID wars and we are working with a lot of food supplying or medicine supplying. We are working for that actually. So only we are doing past 3 months we are supplying the vehicle to the hospitals across the Tamil Nadu. We are almost supplying 15 numbers for the COVID wars. It really supplying the medicines and food to the. We are currently working with Hindustan University and support of Nissan. Okay. So this is the opportunity we can do more and more for our society. So this kind of autonomous robot used for COVID isolation wards in all over across Tamil Nadu. Innovators will always stay relevant despite any adversities they face. Learning and innovations are the two pillars of growth and progress of humanity. Yes, our guest speaker of the day, Honorable Mr. Muthu Pannirselvam. He is a serial innovator and has been involved in product development in US and Australia. He is also an educator and an industrial consultant who provides strategic advisory services. He has worked in hundreds of industrial projects in his career spanning 2 decades in India, US, and Australia. In addition, he has engaged with almost 2,000 industries across the world to provide solutions for all stakeholders in the industrial ecosystem and beyond as well. He also endeavors to provide the good career opportunities for young graduates and engineers. In addition to this, he also penned a best-selling book on technology and smart cities. So he currently is living in Australia with his family. So I invite Honorable Mr. Muthu Pannirselvam sir to start the session. Sir, the floor is yours now.
Thank you, Ariel. Thank you for the kind introduction. Thank you to everyone at Access Global Institute of Industrial Training. I welcome everyone and wait for the opportunity to share my thoughts and experience with you. I will present this webinar in 2 series. Part 1, I will present today on 1st of August. The topic again is innovation and how to create a better tomorrow. Topics I will cover are how technology in particular, moving from a wall clock to $1 million facility. I'll give an example in what happened in my life in the last 25 years, and also learn the basics and how to create a strong foundation and how it helped me. I will also share. And also I'll give a couple of examples on know your value proposition, and also a example on we live in a globalized world where networking is very, very important. And I will finally cover on volunteering, which I've been doing for the last some time. So that's part one. Part two, I'll cover on 29th of August, which is the topic how to find your value proposition and the value of mentors or gurus and future opportunities and global economy and the types of industries and how to implement and take action, which is a vision board, which I constantly follow, and the technology and the future webinars that we plan to do. I am a director of a company which is based in Australia, which also runs seminars and webinars called C21 Knowledge. And I'd like to also mention about this video because I'm not able to show myself, so hope that is okay. I'd like to also start with the disclaimer, if you allow me, please. I will try my best to communicate and express my personal thoughts and some of my 20+ years of knowledge by giving some examples and some real life experience during this seminar series or webinar series. If I was not clear in explaining things in detail, please ask questions during the Q&A session. And also what I explain in a situation may not be applicable to someone else, so it could be different. So you have to find your own way to find a solution before you take an action. So before I start the session, I wish you all the best for all your future endeavors. And if you have any question after the session, feel free to call Mr. Eril or his colleagues for more information. I'll start with two of my favorite quotes. The first quote is this, which is relationships are all there is. Everything in the universe only exists because it is relationship to everything else or something else. Nothing exists in isolation. We have to stop pretending we are individuals. We can do it alone. That's one of my favorite quotes. And the other one in Tamil is Yadamure Yavarum Kelir. This is my two of my favorite quotes in Tamil, which my father used to teach me when I was younger. And the translation for Tamil for non-Tamil speakers is Yadamure Yavarum Kelir means all citizens in the universe are our friends or relations. And Tidum Nandrum Piratharavara means no good or bad thing will come to us through others. So whatever we do, it is up to us, whether the good thing or bad thing, it will not come through us to others. It's only with what we do. So with that, I will start my presentation. Now, I have mentioned a couple of times about 20 years. So this is maybe my 22 years of my experience. I'll try to share in 22 slides. So the first thing for the young graduates in the audience, if there are any, is sometimes you have to be a little bit patient. This is bamboo on the first day, and this is first year, and it grows very quickly in 4 years' time. So what I try to mention through this presentation is, through this slide is, sometimes things take time. You have to be positive and stay patient, and things will get better. And this particular information I have it here is mainly because we live in a society or place where the technology is expecting us to go faster. And I also see a lot of young graduates who would like to get things faster. Sometimes we have to be a little bit patient. So I will give you some examples in part one and also in part two, the reason behind why we have to be patient sometime. Now, I'll start with a story. So that's my grandfather was very, very good in repairing things. I remember it is not the exact clock. This clock I had taken the image from Pixabay, but there's something similar to this clock. So he used to repair this type of clock every fortnight or every month or so. So he'd take it out, put it all into different pieces and wash it in kerosene or some solvent, and then put it back together. So I always watch him with the interest how he does this and how these things are connected and how this thing moves. So that was the first observation about me about the clock, which is a pendulum clock. So that's to my grandfather. My first part-time job when I moved to Chennai was, I think I was living in T Nagar, so I was started working part-time in a photocopier or a Xerox photoshopping place. So where I had a chance to know about a photocopier or a Xerox machine. So I kind of know how the toner works, how to clean the toner, how to feed the paper, how to feed all this machine, and if it is a black and white or color, the quality of the paper, thickness of the paper. So I kind of understood the details behind a photocopy machine. So that helped me to go further as I go into chemical engineering field and other process industry. And that's number 3 is I started managed, I think the last maybe 10, 15 years, I managed over 7 research labs and also in process engineering industries, where I kind of understood the mechanics behind the chemical engineering equipment from boiler, heat exchanger, heating, cooling system, and all those things I try to understand, but these are all connecting back to my grandfather's clock. So that's where I learned it. So from clock to the photocopier, then to the machine, then I started managing a couple of research labs, and eventually I started managing 7 research labs at RMIT University for the last 10 years. So that's an example, is from a wall clock to lead $1 million facility. That's a given example. So what I try to say here is we need to sharpen our skills, and also we need to observe whatever we do, whether it is a simple pendulum clock or a photocopier or any machine, and continuously apply. And this is something I'd like to say is the smaller the detail, greater the value. So the reason why I say this is with confidence and also with to motivate others is this particular research lab, there are around 150 instruments. So 150 instruments mean there are over 150,000 or maybe more parts. So I need to be aware of how things work, but these all started right here in the clock. So this is just to give an idea of how we need to be observing things to detail. And the second thing I would like to say here is it's never too late. Sometimes I do get a chance to speak to some young graduates in particular. So they think that, look, I have lost my time, so it's a bit late. It's never too late. We should always keep ourselves busier and engaged with some activities, whatever we think is good. We can either learn and apply and earn. So here are some examples. So Walmart was started by Mr. Sam Walton at the age of 44. Henry Ford, he started his excellent corporation, which is the Ford Motor Company, at the age of 40. And Ray Kroc started McDonald's, which is a very big franchise across the world, at the age of 52. And the most important person that I know, I kind of start reading more about is Mr. Colonel Sanders. Is started KFC at the age of 65. This is one of my favorite quote of Mr. Colonel Sanders is, "Work is the basis of living. I will never retire. A man will rust out quicker than he will wear out. I will be darned if I ever rust out," which means that I always like to keep myself busier. So sometimes I do get a bit upset or where I'm heading, but we just have to keep trying with something. I know it looks like a bit more coaching session or an optimization, a positive thought session, but I think that's the underpinning value I'd like to say, which I'll connect to part number 2. So I'd like to create a foundation for my part 2 series so that you can connect the dots eventually when I finish this seminar series. Now, the other thing which I also tell my children who are in school these days, my elder kid, I think she's turning 13 now. So I tell her the same thing, is learn the basics and have a strong foundation. So whatever we do, whether it's agriculture or video mixing or social work or social studies or animation or coding, whichever platform we do, we have to know the basics and the fundamental of the subject very, very strong. And I think I may confidently say I've done reasonably well in engineering and science. these are all some new areas which I've just given some example because we are all in a multidisciplinary world or field now. So everything is interconnected. So we need to be knowing our foundation, our discipline stronger so that we can connect with the other disciplines. I'll give you a couple of examples in real time. So if I just take your attention to our year 12 maths, which is a simple math equation on motion, forces, angular motion, gravity, Newton's law and everything. If I just take your attention here, that equation there, which is forces, that's a Newton's law of second law, which is force is mass times acceleration. So that particular equation helped me and my team to solve an industrial problem. So when I was studying this in year 12, I did not realize that I'm going to actually solve an industrial problem after 20 years. So what I'm trying to say here through this slide is always be very strong in your fundamentals. So if you're a chemical engineer, be strong in chemical engineering. If you're even in music or arts or literature, it's good to have a good strong foundation. In that way you can build and you can connect with other people. So that's an example which I said this is an industry problem which I solved with my mentor, Professor Mike Shee. This photo was taken maybe around 4 or 5 years before, so that's me. And we solved this equation and we solved this particular industry problem. And the industry problem, the equation was force is equal to mass time acceleration. So the point I would like to mention here is be very good in the fundamentals, on the strong in fundamentals. Number 2 is engineering. So this is the product I and our team has developed for a building and construction company locally in Melbourne. So I had a privilege to be a chief investigator for this particular product. And this Professor Stuart Bateman, that's Professor Srini Madapusi. Professor Srini is my mentor. Professor Srini also comes from the tutelage or the group of Professor Kekule. I'm sure most of you have heard of the name Professor Kekule, because Professor Kekule was the benzene ring founder. So he's the one who discovered benzene ring. So Professor Srini Madapusi comes from the lineage, which means that his graduate students and his graduate students and his graduate student was his supervisor. So I had a privilege to work with him. And that's Edwin, who is the most important person in this project, who developed, but we all helped in this project. And that's Kevin, and that's Jim, who owns this company. So that's more into engineering. Again, to develop a product, we need to have a good engineering fundamental knowledge. So that's another example. And this particular product has helped this industry to come with a better understanding of their product itself. That's the Australia-India joint venture project with Professor Jega and others. Again, what I'm trying to mention here is we have developed a book which is connected to smart cities. So these are our panel members and also editors, Professor Jega and Griffin. So this is just to give you an idea how a fundamental will help you to go succeed in solving many problems in real time. So that's to give an example that we should never give up. So the other thing which I would like to share is time is more value than money. You can get more money, but you can't get more time. So if I give an example of how to fast track your success, if you think that, look, my time is limited because I got only this much time, I have to reach a certain goal. So whether it's a project or a business idea or a startup company or a research project or even doing anything to do with this. So if I give an example, if I'm traveling from Chennai to Mangalore, there are multiple routes. So you can take either this route, which is already established route, or which is other route, go through the other cities. Now, it's good to have someone who has already traveled that path. Now, that path is mostly someone who has done this over and over again, at least many times, who is possibly a little bit more experienced than us. So all this experience I have shared in the last few slides, all the credit goes to my mentors because they are the one who are behind me in doing all this, help me do this project. So I was able to fast track the success. So instead of me failing multiple times, I just go ask them, look, can I do this? Will this work? So in that way, you will be able to reach your goals a little bit faster, which is not something new, which is the guru. So significance of guru, I will give examples in part 2 series. So this just to give an example. So time is more value than money. You can get more money, but you can't get more time. Now, this will give a little bit more motivation and optimistic view, in particular to these countries where just colored in blue. This one I will cover in part 2 until the 29th of August. If you see this, please, this particular map, the workforce age group in between 25 and 54 are actually increasing in this country. So India is one of them. So India has got an excellent opportunity coming up where you have a huge workforce which is not available in any other parts of the country. So these are the places where the workforce is actually increasing. The future opportunity will be very, very high than the other countries, which means that you can tap that opportunity, which is the age group, to leverage onto multiple other areas. So I will share some of my thoughts, which I learned from the other articles and also from my personal view at the next series. So this just to give you an idea. So there is a global divide in terms of population in the age group. So the blue area shows it's a workforce age group is actually it's a very good number. It's a 25 to 54. It's a good workforce age group. Now, I would like to draw your attention for this. So when you see this particular signs, what was your first thoughts? What this business offers, products and services and stakeholders? I know this may look like a very simple slide to you, but this has got a deep embedded meaning with within these slides. So that's, I'm sure you would be able to guess what organization that is. State Bank of India. That's Axis Bank. That's ICICI. That's Tata, Wipro, and HCL. Now, as soon as you put these logos, you can immediately connect what that particular business offers, what is their business model, what is their main core business, and these are all the things that comes to your mind. And that, of course, in general term, you can call it as a value proposition. So which is the value proposition in simple terms. I'm sure this will be a repeat to some of them, but just in case if there are someone new who are new to the term called value proposition, is how your product or your service solve or improve problems and what benefit customers can expect and why customers should buy from you over the other competitors. So I will explain in the next slide why I placed this particular slide. In particular, I talk about the value proposition. So the smartest way to go around, you know this company, that's Uber. The experience is the product, you know this company, that's Apple. Easy to read on the go, you know this company straight away, it's Amazon Kindle. Accessibility, innovation, customization, that's Nike. Now, to the young graduates in this particular forum, I would like you to think of, find your own value proposition that you can offer to the wider community around you. And at the next seminar series, I'll share a few methods how you can find your value proposition in part 2 with some examples. So these are all the value proposition of this company. So value proposition is very, very important, whether it is a product or a person or a company or a business. So your value proposition is how you're presenting your curriculum vitae or a project report is through consistency. Because I remember when I first wrote my resume in 1999 and 2000, it was very different. But I did not get, many times, as I said before, I failed multiple times, not just one or two, multiple times. I started getting a little bit tired, but I just keep trying again. But again, I don't want to say that I did this, but I just want to motivate in some form or shape so that if it's going to help you, whether you're going to do your work search or business startup or seek funding or project approval, the two formula which I normally follow is consistency and also perseverance. So these two really matter. So you should find your value proposition, what you are good at it. And that I will tell you at the next series, what are the value proposition that I thought I have and how I leverage that to start a few businesses. And in particular, these are the tough times. I can understand the hope is something, we must have hope in ourselves, and we must also have a belief in ourselves. So Hope is something which you can't give up, so that's something which should be there all the time. 6 degrees of separation. When I went to US, English was my second language, so I started learning English slowly. Then I started various people, and then I learned about this technique called 6 degrees of separation, which means that if there is a person here, this person can contact any other person in that particular in any part of the world through 6 hours. The 7th person would be that person. So if I want to talk to someone, say someone in America or someone in Europe or someone in Africa, if I approach 6 people, the 7th people, I would be able to get that one. So again, this comes back to the relationship. Now, this is the 6th degree of separation, but in the social media age, the 6th degree actually shrunk to reduce to maybe 2 to 3. I will share the more about this in part 2 series. So if you have a pen and paper, you can take and do some reading on 6 degrees of separation, and also Kevin Bacon number. I think it's KEVIN BACON. So it's Kevin Bacon. So he worked something around this particular topic, which I'll share at the next part 2 series. Now, Mahatma Gandhi said, selfless action is a source of strength, and it is very true. And my father was a great admirer of Mahatma Gandhi. Has given me a couple of books also, which I started reading recently. So a good word from Mahatma Gandhi was, selfless action is a source of strength. Now, volunteering. I started volunteering when I was a bit upset and tired, where I think that where I was not able to do something, I want to take my mind off and do something more for the community so that I can understand where the problem is, where I can offer a solution. Because once you know more about the question, then you can try to start finding answer. Now, I started maybe very few hours of volunteering in my early days in Kalvarine Hills in India, and also around a few places in India, doing some teaching and tutoring. And when I went to US, I started doing some volunteering in Tennessee. And then in Australia, I started doing volunteering. So I think I'm reasonably confident to say I volunteer from 10 to 12 hours per week, which I've been doing consistently for 20 years. So this is not something which I've done overnight. I've done for many years. But you might say, why I don't have photos in Colorado Hills and USA is because of the technology. So I will give you an example in the next slide why I couldn't give a photo. These 2 photos actually I took from the internet, but I can share. But at the time I did not take the photo, but I don't think I have the photos. But coming back to the point is the selfless action and giving back to the community, volunteering is very, very important. So if you have a chance to volunteer, either through professional organization or any other non-profit organization, try to volunteer at least a couple of hours. So that's my suggestion, if you like. So this particular example is for the Young Scientist Contest of Windham, where this was, I think, the 3rd or 4th year which I've been managed to judge and also give my time to assess these young students to develop projects. So this was some other examples. Now, volunteering, to some of them who are new to this concept, I'm sure many of them are doing these days. This is a well-connected area where you can volunteer. So mostly start with possibly professional organization. So if you're a science graduate or engineering graduate or arts or something, try to find the organization which is attached to the discipline. For example, I was manufacturing, I was connecting myself to Society of Manufacturing Engineers. So at some time I was working in plastic industry, so I connected myself with the Society of Plastic Engineers. Then for some time I was doing some engineering studies. I connected myself with the Society of Engineering Education. So in that way, if there is an Engineers Australia and so on, so you should find easily something closer to what you think is aligning with your area of expertise. So that's again comes back to the value proposition. So this is something which I like very much is we never really understand a person until we consider things from his or her point of view. So we really never really understand a person until you consider things from their point of view. So until you climb inside the skin and walk around it. So that's an additional bit. So we should not come into a conclusion very quickly. So we should look always from others' perspective. So like that again, through experience you will get it, and that you will get mostly through volunteering, because at volunteering you will see various set of people, various set of questions, various set of stakeholders, various set of opportunities, various set of threats. So you'll be able to find where actually there is a gap, and that gap you can try to solve it. Now we live in a technology-driven world and a digital world, and that's my first phone in 2001, which I still have it because I just want to always remember the past. And so that way I know where I come from. I should always think about where I was and how I have, so that I should be able to set some example for my children too. So that's one of the reasons I couldn't take a phone, because as you can see, this is my first phone. This is my recent phone, which I still have it. So the technology is growing tremendously. So we had to be digitally connected and study relevant technology and keep yourself updated all the time. And I'll also give a few examples in part 2 series. So that's an analog clock, which is something similar to what my grandfather would know, but my grandfather would not know this, which is a digital or a smart watch. So we need to know, because we are moving from this technology to this technology. So if you're studying something new, we should possibly focus more our time and energy here and also learn a little bit here, but there are certain technology which will become completely obsolete in the near future, which I will share in the next few slides. And another example, recently I've just done that by myself, is I have a lot of papers, a lot of files and folders, and now everything is on cloud. So it's pretty much makes our job easier. So if you're going to do something in technology which is related to, say, maybe if I may give an example, I'm not saying completely it is going to be going away, but the business around this would be less. So the business around the folder manufacturing or printing or paper, manufacturing of paper would be less, because the need for paper would be niche area. So we are going more into electronics and digital communication. When it becomes more digital, so the reliance for manufacturing for materials and paper would be less. So I would prefer not to spend too much time. Then again, as I said before on the first slide, which is a personal notice, I'm sharing my thoughts from my personal view, so I'm not sure where each and every one would be. So you have to think from your perspective and make a decision accordingly. Now, some topic of studies will, as I said before, will become obsolete. So this is files archiving. Now from this, it gone to hard drive, but I think it looks like the hard drive will become obsolete, because as we are going into cloud. So this, just to give an example, so this is maybe in 20 years before it was good, but in 5 years time, this is actually fast tracked to the cloud. So some topics of studies will become irrelevant or kind of redundant or obsolete in near future. So we don't have to spend too much time on learning something which is not going to be useful for the future, but you can learn, it may be very limited percentage. So spend your time more on this, because this is what is going to get us opportunities and time, but you can still learn it, but this is where the main focus is going to be. Other topics, I'm sure chemistry, I still remember this. There is a silver nitrate and hypo, where we used to wash or developed photofilms. So that's something which we have used, and silver nitrate. So this will become, this chapter may not be there in the chemistry books in near future, because we completely gone into digital photo. So this technology may be there, maybe for some areas, but this, if someone is going to study and spend a lot of time doing this, that person would have to work harder to get that particular job. So the market is more here. So you have to be understanding where the technology is going and what is the future technology, and keep up with it. The opportunity in post-COVID world, I also served as a few safety roles in my workplace in the past. So where I used to serve as a health and safety representative, and also as the OHS officer, and also as the floor warden and fire warden, more into safety. I think post-COVID world, it will be different, where safety will become one of the main features, and also various compliances. So for example, the distancing and the hygiene and all those things, so that I will cover a few part of the post-COVID opportunities in the safety in part 2 series. Now, if I give an industry, because how our global economy works is based on these 5 industries. So we should be working in at least one of them. So if you are a teacher or a university lecturer or professor, you are into tertiary or quaternary sector. And if you're working in agriculture or fishery or forestry, we are into primary sector. So the primary sector and the secondary sector is very, very important, because this is the sector that boosts the economy. And this is a sector where you are converting a raw material into a product. So this is where the value goes up. So if the value goes up, then the economy will be very strong. So the manufacturing is one of the main industry. Now I will also try to cover the manufacturing for, or the industry, the new industries coming up, including additive printing and manufacturing in the part 2 series. So this just to give an idea which industry you fit in. So you should be able to connect to it. I'm working primary industry or secondary or tertiary or quaternary or quinary. Then you will see where this industry is going in 10 years time, and what is the technology associated with it. Do I know this technology, or who should I work with or partner with? So in this way, you know you are ahead of the curve. So this is just to give an example, but I will give some more examples, opportunities in the post-COVID world in the part 2 series. Now, this is the first industrial revolution, and which is the mechanization, water power, and steam power. Then we got into the mass production. This is where the Ford company comes in, and the other production line comes in. So this is a second industrial revolution, which is the assembly line in electricity, because the steam changed the way in which we operate the industry. The industry meaning the primary, secondary, tertiary, or primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, or quinary, and also the third, which is the computer and the automation. But now we are in the fourth industrial revolution, which is more cyber physical system, automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, and so on. So this is what I'll be touching also in the part 2 series. So innovation and how to create a better tomorrow. Sorry, I missed that article there. Create a better tomorrow, which is part 1. I just given an overview of how I went from a wall clock by observing the wall clock mechanism from my grandfather when he was repairing during Sundays, to $1 million facility. And it took some time. It took, as I said before, around 25 years. But so just to give an idea that, again, connected to the bamboo story, sometimes things take time. And the other example is learn the basics, have a good, strong foundation, and work with mentors and gurus, and have that into your list. And know our value proposition. So we need to know, okay, look, this person is good in doing this. So he is good in manufacturing. He is very good in human resources, or he is doing good in networking. He's doing promotion or social media. We should be, I'm sure we are all good in some way, and we have to connect and know our value proposition. So that's my suggestion, if you think. We live in a globalized world, so networking is part of the key. So we need to be digitally connected. We had to be faster. We had to be smarter. So we can't say we don't want to go into the digital world, because I'm not saying we don't have a choice, but we prefer to have because we completely moved into most of the things into digital world. So we have to learn and adapt to the current environment, instead of maybe thinking whether should I go ahead or not. So that's something which I covered briefly. And also volunteering. So volunteering is something which will help you to understand and possibly connect to know your value proposition, because when you're volunteering, you are not paid for that role. So you're actually going there, giving your time, which is very important. And then you learn something from them. Then you will know, okay, look, you're good in doing something. In that way, you can refine and sharpen your skills, and you can find the gap in the community, and you can say, look, there is a problem there. So can we solve it? So that I will give you in part 2 series, and possibly in the future series, how volunteering actually helped me to see many things. So that's something which I covered today. So part 2 next, which is the 29th August, I will share how to find your value proposition and the significance of mentors and mentees and future opportunities in virtual retail, which is Amazon and other areas, digital education. Now we are all going into online and other platforms, robotics and healthcare and cybersecurity, and the global economy types of industry, which I briefly covered, which is a primary, secondary, tertiary, and other industries, and how to implement and take action. This is particular for young graduates who just graduated looking for a job opportunity. I would strongly recommend to have a vision board, which I will cover on the 29th seminar or webinar series, and the technology, and also future webinars, how I could share some of my knowledge with you all if there was an opportunity in the near future. So this is pretty much about the presentation that I would like to share with you. And as I said before, success again comes over time. Perseverance and consistency is very, very important. And this is one of my favorite quotes too. The best way to predict the future is to create it. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. It's really very nice content actually. So I think everything is related to the real-time scenario. So I think you do a lot of homework for this presentation. When you work, I understand your
You're welcome.
background. Thank you so much, sir. So this is a knowledge is power generally. I think it's a good, what we say, important and very informative book for the students. Mr. Brian and Muthu Pannirselvam both are commonly written this book actually. It's time to A to Z property and financial terms. People want to financial thing. Definitely this book will be a good support. And second book is a blockchain, a cryptocurrency and the future. So people want to know about cryptocurrency. Nowadays, a lot of blockchain technologies are involving in these manufacturing sectors also. So cryptocurrency also financial students and they want to know about cryptocurrency is a biggest opportunity in future. So people want to know the subject definitely will be helpful for your future career and business. Some people want to do the business also. This kind of topics is very important for the starting the business.
As I said before on the first slide, is sometimes we look things from one perspective, but it differs from other perspective. So hopefully I given some interest and enthusiasm to others to inspire. Yeah, so I will look forward to sharing some more example at the next webinar.
Okay. So thank you, sir, for the great
You're
session.
welcome. You're welcome.
It was a master class in making innovation into a habit, and I am certain that our audience members have benefit greatly from these insights. Actually, we are excited to have you host the follow-up session at the end of this month. We appreciate your talking time to host such as inspiring and thought-provoking discourse. So thank you, participant. Okay. So thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I think upcoming next part series definitely will be more interesting. Thank you, sir.
The video, subscribe to the channel and press the bell icon for latest video updates.